Hello, everyone. Welcome to SheSight Magazine's She Power Special Feature Podcast. This is me, Dr. CeeVee, your host for the day. And to talk about SheSight, SheSight Magazine is a women's digital magazine as well as a women's platform where successful women huddle together. For knowing more, do visit us at our website, www.shesightmag.com. You can also follow our social media pages and don't forget to subscribe to YouTube channel SheSight. So today we have with us a fantastic women global leader from Sweden, Annie Lindmark. Annie has been selected for 2 years in a row as Future Female Leader of the Year by Lederna. She's also the winner and the jury's choice at the NOVA 111 talent list in the field of politics and public sector. She's also awarded as the Innovator of the Year by Samsung at Universum Excellent Awards, selected as top 30 change leaders by 4Potentials and top 100 individuals in data analytics and AI in the Nordics by Hyperwrite. She is someone who calls herself as a futurist and a visionary realist. She definitely dreams big, and at the same time, she's also a doer. She's drawn to disruptive projects that have the ability to turn status quo upside down. What drives her is emerging technologies, deep tech, AI, open and data driven innovation, diversity and inclusion, sustainability, and whatnot. I'm so privileged and happy to welcome my good old friend Annie Lindmark to this episode of SheSight She Power special feature. Annie, a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Chandra, and thanks for that nice introduction. I'm so happy to have the conversation with you today.
Yeah. So let's get started. Annie, tell us about your journey as a woman that you have flourished to become today.
Yeah, my journey. So I would perhaps sum it up. I mean, for most of my career, I had the privilege to work and promote and support impact innovations. And it has been in terms of, providing funding, guidance, being that networker and kind of building networks and communities. I also been very drawn to projects that have this, disruptiveness into them, meaning, they can turn the status quo upside down. So it can be projects that challenge the norms, that rethink and reimagine how things can be done, and so on. So I've been working within the innovation ecosystem, as you mentioned, for many years, both here in Sweden, where I'm based, but also in Europe and in the US. And I most recently come from working as a program director at Vinnova, Sweden's innovation agency, where my main areas was around innovative startups and the surrounding ecosystem around startups, emerging technologies, foresight. And during my years there, I got to work with EU-related startups and SME programs. And I also spent 1 year at Nordic Innovation House in Silicon Valley, and that's where I met you. And there I represented Sweden and worked with promoting Swedish Nordic startups and building relationships between Sweden and the US. So that is kind of my background, I would say.
Where did it all start? Like, as a little girl, did you aspire to end up in this kind of a role? What was your career ambition when you started up?
Thinking about me as a kid and kind of where I got, my drive from, I would say I always been a very curious person.
Yes.
Always also loved being around people and being in different contexts. So growing up, I did both, Thai boxing, but I also went to theater classes and always been drawn to getting mixed perspectives. I mean, growing up also having a very supporting parents, letting me do what I wanted, and also believing that I could do many things that I wanted to take on. It feels like I just tried to follow my feeling, my gut feeling of what can I want to do, and that has been a red thread. So sometimes when you perhaps look at my background in terms of what I've been working with, it can look maybe a little bit, that I done different types of things that in first sight may not make sense. But for me, it's been really a journey of going after my curiosity and seeing what that takes me.
I absolutely love the point that you brought in. Two things. One, you mentioned about curiosity, but at the same time, you also mentioned that your career is not a straight line. It has, all kinds of changes or, ups and downs and other things. This is a very interesting, what do you call, leadership lesson or a career lesson, I would say, that many people who think that what I'm doing right now in my job doesn't make any sense at times, but it
Mm,
makes sense in the long run.
mm.
That's what I have seen in if you look at most of the successful people and their career trajectories, they've always
Yeah.
had what you, as you rightly said, it was never a straight line. It was always like,
No. And I think you point out something so important there, Chandra, like if, especially when you talk with, for example, younger people,
yeah,
when they hear, for example, a person, that has come a long way in their career talking about their background, it
yeah,
sometimes sounds like it's like they had, this straight journey or they had an idea where they wanted to go.
yeah,
But that is like because when you further down the line, you can make sense of it and kind of recreate the journey as it makes sense. But I think it's very important, to talk about to young people that it is not a straight line, and it is. I mean, it is, as you said, hard sometimes to know where will this kind of take me, but kind of to trust sometimes also in that it doesn't maybe perhaps make sense right now, but it
yeah.
feels right, and
Yes.
then it will add up in the end.
100%. I love that. Okay, now let's talk about what you are doing right now. As you rightly said, we met while you were in Vinova, and Vinova has been a great organization. It's a role model, I would say, in terms of innovation, especially bringing in that gender equal innovation ecosystem. That's something
Mm.
I absolutely love about Vinova. So would you like to talk about a little bit about that, as well as what you are doing right now in your new role at H&M Foundation?
Yes.
Mhm.
No, but as you say, I had the really like one of my most valuable years at Vinnova, working with the whole innovation ecosystem, working with, I mean, talking about norm critical innovation, really trying to, understand what can be rethinked, reimagined, how can we really zoom out
Mm.
and think like if we would, rebuild a
Yeah.
system today, how we would do it. So with that background, it has really given me so much, and when I was now evolving into my next career step, I had that like in my backpack and really wanted to go into another like a big system where change is needed.
Yes.
So when I saw that H&M Foundation was looking for someone to strategically work with their innovation challenge, the Global Change Award, it felt like a very exciting
Mhm.
challenge to textile and fashion industry is a huge, important, and challenging industry. To be able to work with that and kind of also find opportunities, solutions, and the people who have the new ideas of how we can make things better. That was like, yeah, something that drew me to where I am today.
That's brilliant. What does sustainable fashion mean for H&M at this point, and what is this global change awards that you're talking about?
Hmm. But it's a good point that you bring it up, and it's perhaps is like needed to explain that H&M Foundation is actually like a totally separate legal entity from the H&M Group.
Okay.
So I cannot speak for the H&M Group, but I mean, H&M Foundation has its own like brand, team, strategy, and
Mhm.
it's very much, sprung from an entrepreneurial point of view where we want to do things, fund projects that really accelerate solutions towards like a socially inclusive planet and positive textile industry.
Okay.
And it could also, of course, as since we share the name, it is obvious to kind of say something that it's H&M Foundation is privately funded by the Stefan Persson family, so the founders and main owners of the H&M Group. But
Mm.
we are very much a separate entity.
Mhm.
And answering kind of the question, I also think it's important to say what I think is so powerful with kind of working at the foundation is that
Mm.
we use philanthropic resources to fund research and breakthrough innovations and develop partnership and so on. And I think it's like the importance of philanthropy in sustainability. I think is something that we seldom talk about, but it's a really, I think, a gap that can be filled. Like using philanthropic resources is so much needed sometimes because we can go in and take a lot of risk. We can, fund things that others may not dare to fund because it's too early. So it's a very like a sweet spot in that case. That is like philanthropic resources that we use,
Yeah.
and therefore we can, go in and do other things that perhaps other funding or grant organizations can't.
Exactly. I mean, absolutely. We have such wonderful examples, including the Melinda French Foundation,
Yes.
who are doing amazing work in the field of philanthropy. And so, tell us a little more about sustainable fashion. How is it evolving? If you could share a little bit about that as well.
Yes, of course. I'm very new to kind of the industry. As I said, I've been working so much with different types of systems that are in like involving and change. And I think like looking at the textile industry or like the fashion and like the fashion industry, it is in many cases an industry just like the food industry or just like the mobility industry. Like as I said, I think really we are in a time of in history where humanity really needs to, think about how we can rebuild and transform all of these types of industries that, have so many challenges. So in that sense, I think that as in other industries, innovation is so much needed, and we also need to really, sit down and rethink how we can do things. So, I mean, that's like one thing I think, and we do see already many solutions that are coming with everything from solutions on new materials, production, transportation, also, behavior attributes, because that's, I mean, the consumer have a part in this as well.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I do see that there's like happening things in all of the blocks in the system, and I think that's like also the Global Change Awards, which we probably
Yeah.
will touch upon.
Mm.
I think is a good accelerator of this to
Mhm.
kind of seek out to, what types of new solutions are out there that we need to kind of scale now to solve some of the challenges.
I love the fact that you touched upon not just the products and the process, but also on the behavioral change that is needed in order to
Mm.
ensure sustainable behaviors or sustainability as such. So, I mean, I want to know more about your Global Change Awards and how
Yes.
that can actually accelerate this process. Tell us more about that. How are you supporting
Yes.
innovators?
So I mean, the Global Change Award is the foundation's innovation challenge,
Mhm.
and it's the whole aim is like accelerating innovation towards, I mean, to halve the textile industry's emissions, leading up to net zero by 2050. So that is like the big goal.
Yeah.
The innovation challenge was launched in 2015, so it's been around for almost 10 years. And throughout these years, I think it's like 46 innovations that have received and support and grants up to 8 million euros
Wow.
from the Global Change Award. So it's like it has been continuously every year a cohort of innovators that have gotten a grant and also support from a program.
Mm.
And basically, you could say, like, if you look at these 46 different innovations, they are all like innovators that have, one or different ways of how we can reinvent fashion, change the way it's seen, worn, or made.
Mm.
And the whole aim with the Global Change Award is to I mean, find those innovators throughout the globe because it's a global challenge, but also to, I mean, support them and scale, help them scale so they can, make a positive impact on the planet and transform the textile industry. I guess like you would think also it's interesting, Jonna, that I really love about it. And I'm beside the grant working with them for this full year.
Yeah.
So giving them everything from, support, personal development, not only focusing on the idea or like the product, but also like how can we equip them as innovators? How
Yeah.
can we make them, strong in who they are and like so they also, have the ability to keep on fighting and doing this because it's pretty lonely to being an entrepreneur and innovator.
That's true. So that brings me back to the concept of innovation. And you had earlier touched upon norm-critical innovation and other things. Let's talk about AI and
Yeah. Mhm.
the way AI technology is disrupting the whole world.
Mm.
What do you think in foresight? I mean, what do you think the future is going to be when it comes to innovation and maybe sustainability or whatever you would want to touch upon in terms of AI and the disruption that is happening around?
Mm. I think it's so important to bring in the tech in the conversation about sustainability. And also, since both you and me spent some time in Silicon Valley, it feels like that was like in the DNA of every conversation that you have, kind of not only following like the cool new things that's happening within AI, but also like how can we actually bring this in and create value out of it. So I think that conversation is very important to have, and it should be brought up even more. Like, we know that today's technology takes a lot of resources to run, but it also unlocks so many new solutions. But I mean, a hopeful thing is I read that in a report recently that I think it was like 76% of something that all big corporates, I think it was in the US, believes that emerging technologies like AI can play like a critical role in reducing their organization's carbon emissions and play like a totally deal breaker role in their progress towards sustainability. So I think that people start to realize how much you need to understand where AI can be applied in your business in order to accelerate change. And also, I mean, the different types of solutions that can like connect it to climate, for example. We have seen, AI solutions that can forecast earthquakes, or that can predict, when is the best time to do the harvest in different types of the world where it's raining very seldom. So we've seen so many great cases of where AI can take us. So, I mean, my hope is.
But we also see some dumb use cases.
We said dumb use cases. Yes, we've seen so many dumb use cases.
Yeah.
I seen like
that is
recently
the sad part of it, That's why people are talking about the AI technologies as well. Yeah.
Yes, and just scrolling on social media, you will see, how AI can be used in so many ways with deep fakes, or like recreating pictures and doing stuff that feels like a little bit hopeless sometimes. That's like, is that where we will put our efforts into, or is it to these like game-changing ideas? I saw one example going to South by Southwest. It was someone talking about that, how we are at the end now, like with the dumb cases, and then she like took this example of a new app that is like, talk to your ex. You could insert all the different text messages that you had with your ex-partner, and then it could regenerate your conversations. And it feels like, yes, okay, that is like, that can fill perhaps some needs, but I really hope that we continue putting effort and money into the other part, where it can create real change.
I mean, what you said is really, really a valid point. Using technology towards solving bigger and better and important problems of the world, especially the UN Sustainable Development Goals. How do you think we can actually promote a set of startups for the future who actually consider these bigger issues and challenges of the world?
Such a great question, and something that I think about a lot, actually. I mean, one of the things I feel is one like necessary thing is, of course, that there's funding for those types of projects or ideas that we kind of encourage that, and that comes when if you're working with, at the VC, or if you work at like a funding agency, whatever, to really highlight how important it is to have that in mind, and perhaps even have that as a criteria. Like, this is a must go. You need to kind of know what are the 17 SDGs are you working towards or not working towards, or like maybe even preventing, to have always that layer. So I think it's a responsibility questions of all of those who are
investing,
having funding as their main task, to really push for that as being an important criteria and a must have. So that's one part, I guess. Another part, I think, is so much about role models and like what media want to highlight, and kind of how we, and then I think, role models and good examples can only take us so long on the journey, but I think it's an important part to continue, really making those who change the world to rock stars, like really lifting them. And we've seen some great examples of that. We in Sweden, we have you could say like an impact hub or something called Norsken, and they've been great at really talking about innovators as the rock stars and giving them access to support, and a really great area to sit in the middle of the city and so on. So I think that's also another part. And then it starts in school. I also think early, to mean talk about those things and also making it feel hopeful, I guess.
Yeah.
It's so much terrible things happening in the world, and it's very easy to sometimes think that I cannot make a change, like it's impossible. But I think like to inject hope in that, and like, yes, but you can actually do a change, and it all starts with you and me.
Yeah.
And to have that early, I think also is a super important part to make our younger generations feel like they have the power to change the future. It's not, we're not like, it's not the end. We can really do something, but we need to like, get more people to wanting to be part of the change.
100%. I think you touched upon all three major actors in this. One is the investor. The money ultimately decides what and how the world is shaped. Second is the role models, the people who actually innovate, whether they are getting the support, whether they are being recognized,
Mhm.
whether they are being cheered as superheroes, that's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Then, of course, third most important actor in this is the people ourselves. How
Mhm.
are we changing our behaviors towards
Yeah.
sustainable practices and other things? Definitely. I love that. And I think there's one more actor in this, which is the government and the policies,
Yeah, for
regulation.
sure. Mm.
But I know it again, it's a politics. So we cannot do much about it. But I think I always believe in taking responsibility as an individual, and that's something which you shared, which is very important as well. What technologies do you think can influence in those in that vision? Which technologies do you think will emerge as the most important technologies in the coming few years?
Oh, great question. I mean, AI, of course, but it's like AI is such a broad, area sometimes when we talk about it. And there's so many applications where AI is like, integrated in other technologies. For a long time, I've been, very fascinated about metaverse, and now we are more talking about spatial computing, but it's almost like, the same thing. And that is like a typical example where you have a lot of different technologies, coming in together. It's like everything from sensors to AI to other softwares. And I do think that I tried on, the the Apple the new Apple glasses. Now I forgot like the word of them, but I don't know if you had tried those,
No,
their
yeah,
latest but that was like kind of a mind-blowing experience, understanding how we are like very steadily going to a future
yeah.
where we will be able to, really feel like we're in the same room. So
Mm,
like this interview now, it feels like we having a conversation,
yeah,
but I do, I see you, but it really feels like we are not in the same room, which
yeah.
we're not. But with this type of technology, it would really feel like we're in the same
Wow.
room. And I think that it is very powerful, and it's like it is something that can revolutionize education, for example. I mean, not only sitting by your desk with a book, but you could like experience things.
Yeah.
And that I'm very, looking forward to kind of see how that can evolve.
Involved.
So spatial computing, metaverse, in one way or another, really um, seeing how education and, of course, building connections throughout the world can increase by those types of new applications. So that's one part. I would also say, as we touched upon already, I mean, AI with the filter of climate, like climate tech area, I get mind blown every time I read about new climate tech solutions, but also biotechnology.
Yeah.
Like what are we going to see the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to biotechnology? I think a lot of people don't understand how impactful that will be. And
Mm.
this is not my area, but I just, seen on different inspiration talks and, read about some different types of involvements that are happening within biotech, that we can live longer, live healthier, understand more specifically, like, precision health. What do my body need in order for, be as healthy as possible? So that I'm also looking forward to kind of see what breakthroughs we will head to.
Which are the main what do you call innovation or startups, or is there any recent entrepreneurs or innovators that has really inspired you, or would you like to share one or two nice interesting stories?
Yes, you mean from my current role now, like Global Change Awards?
Yes.
Um, because as I said, like I have like I met so many fantastic entrepreneurs and continue to do that like almost every day. And I'm first off, I want to get kudos to everyone who
Yeah,
kind of dares start
absolutely.
their own idea. Like everyone who does that, because it's not, as you said, it's not easy, and it's very few people will believe in you. So for everyone who kind of dares doing that and try out, I always like I'm impressed. So impressed with that. But when it comes to Global Change Awards, there, as I said, like around 46 previous winners. And when you read about them, the different types of, where they fit in the system, it's so cool to kind of read about the different solutions that they have and how much, different problems they have, started from. The one that I have lifted before, I think they are very cool. It's like two female founder from Canada, and they have founded a company called Altix,
Mhm.
and they have used food waste and make it wearable. So it's like the solution of ferments waste into polymers, which can then be into yarn, and yarn into an industrial biodegradable polyester.
Yeah.
And I think this is so cool that they are like they are like looking at two different industries at the same time. I mean, both like the food industry and waste of food,
Yeah.
and also the textile industry.
Mm.
And I think like the circularity and that part, having that in mind, I think there's so many similar things you can do, and I think it's a great example of how
Yeah.
you can work with
Mm.
not only seeing your industry, but
Yeah.
like, okay, how can this be applicable in another industry, for
Another
example?
industry. Yeah, exactly. I think that is where I would like to bring back the audience attention to what we spoke earlier about having the curiosity and trying out different things in
Yeah.
your early stages of career. Sometimes it is those random things that you do which actually connects and brings a meaning later, much later in life.
Back in like when I worked for Vinnova, we had like a team that was very specific on norm critical innovation,
Yeah.
and I know that they did some different workshop at Stanford. And one example that they often talked about that I think is a great example of this, it was a company that had a solution that was very, specifically targeted towards people working within in construction, and especially if you work with heavy, products like hammer and so on, you can easily get injured in your hands.
Yeah.
Or if you, work with something that is very vibrantly, jumping up and down like a big skew or something, you can get problems in your hands.
Mm.
So they had like this, I think it was a glove that could, reduce different injuries.
Mm.
And that was their innovation. And it was great. And it was really targeting a target group that had this problem. And this and then they like kind of went through a norm critical innovation process where they also looked at kind of who is the target group within construction, and they saw that like 85% I think it was male in the construction workers and so on. And then they soon down did this exercise and looked more at the problem and the solution and applying that to other industries, and
Mm.
found out that there's actually another industry which has almost the same problem with these vibrations, injuries in the hands, and that's dentists. Because
Oh.
dentists are working, a lot also with tools that kind of give these vibrations towards your hands.
Yeah.
And the dentists are mostly, it's more women dominated industry.
Yeah.
And suddenly, they had like a
Complete
100%
opposite.
increase in, their target group, but also found a totally other industry and market. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good example of kind of, you can sometimes think that this is my target group, this is the only people who will use my product.
Mm.
But then like zooming out and understanding what have I actually invented, or like
Yeah.
what is the keys in my innovation, how can I be applied in other parts.
That's brilliant. I think if you take the case of any innovator, if someone is really passionate about doing something, and one of the challenges, even myself as an entrepreneur during my early phases, faces definitely finding out. Um, the opportunities, the resources needed, and also being able to convince the community that this is something which I want to do, right? So
Mm.
how do you think, do you have any suggestions for entrepreneurs, yes, especially young innovators and entrepreneurs who are struggling to find their bring out their innovation to the fullest?
Mm. Like one of my best advices always has been, when people ask, how do I get started? If that's what you mean is the question, kind of one thing that is like a very low hanging fruit sometimes could be to, find someone who did the journey and ask them, so it can be hard, of course, to find, that rising star that you like, that is my role model, but, to find someone that have started their own business or have, started their journey in like creating something and like asking like, can I, take a coffee or like a call or and just, ask you a little bit about your journey and like ask you a little bit about how did you do or like do you have any advices that can get you so long, I think. And I've seen examples of that, with projects, even if they're also in different industries, just getting that together and interview each other a little bit, I think. So that's one good way, I think, to interview and reach out to people who kind of did it and ask them like, do you have the time to give me some advices?
Mm.
I would say another one is there's a lot of, networks and communities working towards having learning sessions or having meetups, there to go there and networking a little bit and also listening into others. I think that's also a great advice.
Mm.
And then I also think, I mean, there's so much things to nowadays learn and see online.
Yeah.
You can almost, do a whole education through YouTube or TikTok. So I would also say to, understand that you don't have to actually have perhaps all that, knowledge or like officially be, have a certificate or like a graduation from like a top university. You can actually learn a lot of things
Yeah.
through, what's already out there. So that's another thing to really, leverage on the information that is out there.
100%. I agree. Especially the last point, which is, you can obviously use this digital content, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because
Yes.
people like you are sharing valuable wisdom out there for others. Um, Annie, that brings me to the almost we are nearing to the end of the conversation.
Mm,
So I know this can go on and on, but still,
mm,
there's one question which I always think about, or rather, which bothers me a lot in the innovation sphere, is about women's participation as well as
mm.
solving women's problems. Uh, what is your idea around that?
And I think there's so many layers to this question. One of them like goes so early that we talk about how we raise kids and how we talk about, for example, daring to start your own business, or how we talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur and so on. Another way I think is like a societal thing, kind of also how we perceive how an innovator should look or be like,
Yeah.
and also
That's
kind
very
of some.
interesting. Sorry to interrupt. That's very
No, no, no.
interesting. If you're talking someone to draw how an innovator looks like, I think the average look will be probably a young boy or a guy, right? What do you think? I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, but I think so for sure. And this varies, of course, like in what parts of the world you are. But most like you could also see that if you do a quick Google, like give me a picture of like an entrepreneur, like you will find most pictures of men, and it's not maybe not that weird because most of like successful entrepreneurs that we have that are like being featured are male. But there's so many people that are not getting, like entrepreneurs that are not getting featured and not being lifted up in media or and so on, that are women. So I think that that is a vital part to kind of that we should all, start questioning.
That's precisely what we are trying to do at SheSight. We
Yeah.
are bringing stories of wonderful women across the globe, and we have been doing it so passionately for the past 4 years now.
And I think it's so important, Shanda. I think it's so important, and so that work is like, I think, plays a big role to, really, making other stories come through. So I mean, yeah, so that's like some different, like the perceivedness of like entrepreneurship, how we talk about it, how we teach it. how we and also I think there's so many myths out there. Like a myth is like women don't take risk, but perhaps we should talk about what is risk and like how do you, you know, how do you perceive risk and what is like, because I think that is something that we many people just vaguely talk about, but I would like to, you know, understand a little bit more. What is that? What does that mean? And I really think that sometimes, you know, it can be something that we just say, but we don't really, you know, have the evidence for that. So I think there's a lot of different hidden problems that we need to work with on a societal and educational level. But then, of course, there's things that we can do. Once again, getting back to those who, you know, fund, we can, you know, measure what good measures gets done. We can be better at following up. We can be much better at searching for, you know, proactively searching for women who wants to be innovators or want to take their ideas further. So there's many also actions that can be needed, but I'm 100% sure that we need so many different types of minds and ideas in order to kind of solve the challenges that we're standing in front of. And we cannot, like, you know, keep on having the same type of personalities being entrepreneurs or innovators. We really need to, you know, widening our perspectives and also perhaps also start talking about how a business should be run, or what is like, you know, how is a startup, like a successful startup idea looking like. So I think there's so many things around the perception of it that is like, you know, I'm eager to change.
Sure. You actually founded something, a founders network around called WM Empowerment. Would you like to talk about that as well?
Yes, of course. So this was, I mean, 10 years back. And the 10 years back in Sweden, it was very few women who like started startups. So like we're in the startup ecosystem. So I had me and my friend, we went to a lot of meetups and felt like we were the only women there. And it felt almost like a joke because it was like, you know, so yeah, so like the stereotype. People had, you know, hoodies and had a beer in their hand. And we were like, how can this be like true? Is this like really how it looks like? Like people who, you know, kind of, you know, create the future are only, you know, white young men. So we wanted to do something, and this was like 10 years back. Now we can see that like this is starting to fill up. We have a lot of networks now in Sweden kind of working with this, but 10 years back there was actually no other network, you know, targeting women who wanted to be entrepreneurs. And also we wanted to have the layer talking also about self-leadership, so talking about kind of how you can like strengthen your values, knowing yourself, knowing your why, because we thought then and still do that's like if you know that, you can also, you know, succeed with your dreams much better. So we started W Empowerment, and the whole idea throughout these 10 years has been to, you know, arrange inspirational meetups and have like, you know, workshops around everything from how to start your business, but also how to find your values, how to, you know, exercise gratitude, how to visualize and make dream boards. Like it's been such a wide variety. But the red thread is that we always have, you know, one person coming and, you know, giving their ideas, having a personal touch on it, and being very, you know, have an open and safe space for everyone to, you know, ask questions or help for guidance, and really encouraging, helping each other. So very much, you know, like I totally love SheSight and feel that we're very connected on like the purpose of it, because the W Empowerment also, you know, worked with that a lot to kind of also challenge the norm and bring these stories to life and make people feel like if she can, I can also, and be empowered by that.
100%. I love that. Absolutely. I think maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the women support network was not much in vogue. I would say, you know, it's always the men who go out and they hang out, you know, they have their own networks, which is very, very, I would say, informal and still kind of a network. Even businesses get, I mean, happen mostly because of that boys club and men's network, which happens in the informal. However, women needs to crack that, and women also needs to come into business networking as well as from, you know, I'm not saying in a negative manner, but in a positive manner, utilize the collective strength of women coming together. That's what I feel.
I totally agree, and I think also it's important. Everyone has their take on it, but we are very like keen on not talking about like that like women are like women entrepreneurship, like we are talking about entrepreneurship, and then we are women in the room. So we also want to, not make it as like, we want it to be that everyone has the same access to knowledge and networking, as you said. Like it should not be like the silos. Like we want everyone to just have the same opportunities, for example, for networking. And we, as you said, we felt a little bit, when I started my career within finance, I felt that I was pretty alone as a woman and felt that I lacked a little bit of a network. So this was also like, in one way to, to create the network so we could also, boost ourselves with the network. So it's like, but always, having the lens that it's like, it's not like a club only for women that we have. It's that we bring knowledge and network that we felt that we lacked. So it's like, yeah.
All right. So again, this is again related to, because this is a women's channel. Obviously, there are so many women who would be interested to know how someone like you, who is like a multitasker, you're wearing multiple hats. You are working as a corporate or foundation director, and you are also a young mother, as well as you are, being part of so many global and other forums. You are a speaker. You're invited guest there. You're so busy managing. So how
Yeah.
do you manage all these diverse hats?
Oh yeah. I think one of the main things here is that I try to okay. So before, my answer would have been I say yes to the things that brings me energy, but
Okay.
then I realized that it's too many things that brings me energy. So I can't like, say yes to all of the things that brings me energy. So I have like, been in a position where I needed to, look through what are my obligations and how can I make it work. But nowadays it's like I only say yes to things that brings me energy, but I also, of course need to look through like what does this time take away from something else. So I always try to, balance a little bit. Putting time into this takes time from something else. Do a calculated, choice of somehow. But then I also think it's very beneficial for me that many things of what I do, they make sense for each other. So I mean, having this conversation, that brings me energy, but it also brings me knowledge and learnings and things that can infuse my work. And so I have like, it feels like everything goes into to each other. So that's also one thing that makes it easier to do a lot of different stuff. And the last point I would say is that I get so much passion from meeting other people. So this is like this is my way of recharging in many ways also. But I know for others, not all people, because we know we need to kind of, I think, reflect on that sometimes, because not all people do recharge from meeting other people. Some people get exhausted by that. So I also think it's important not to, compare that, oh, she's doing so many things, but like I would never be able to do that, and then feel like that's okay. You don't need to, be out everywhere. Like different people need different things to recharge. And for me, it's like I get energy of doing these different things.
Yeah.
I think it's impossible to kind of be your fullest if you don't have a support network.
Yeah.
For some people that's a spouse, but it could be like a best friend or like a family member, of course. But for me it's my support network that consists of like my spouse, for example. Is like it is really it really is the thing that makes me feel comfortable and confident in doing the things that I do. So, and that's also, I mean, balancing up how I can get the time to do things. So I think that that's a super important point, to finding your support system that believes in you and helps you kind of thrive. So yeah, I really hope that everyone can find that person, whoever that person is, to
Yeah, whoever that
have.
one person, it could be a group of people, as you said, right?
For sure, it could be the SheSight network. Like it could be, but also like to also be that person for someone else.
Yes.
I mean, by giving is by getting. So I think that that is such an important point, that you can't manage everything alone. And I feel like I'm definitely not alone. I feel like I also the team, like the team that I work together with. I mean, I always feel like I'm part of something, and I think that's so important. Like once again, the feeling of not being, it's all on me, but to ask for help and reach out and be part of a group that makes a change.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Is there any last message that you want to share to amazing women out there who wants to do great things in their life?
Sure. And I think one thing that is like why I love that, methodology is that it gives us the power to shape the future, not just let it happen. It sounds cliche, I know, but I think it's so important today when we're standing in front of so many challenges that it's like, it's not about predicting the future because no one can do that. But we can work already today with kind of, ways of understanding where we're headed and also, to make actions towards the future you want to see. So, I mean, for me, that gives me some type of empowerment that, I mean, I'm part of shaping the future I want to see. And that also keeps me going in my work. So that's just an, kind of a send off that I really think that we all should have that with us, that the future is yet to come and we can create it.
Yeah. And I think we both are eternal optimists in that sense.
Yes.
Because there is so much of negative, dark things that we can imagine, but I think we would like to imagine a bright future in all ways.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, I would like to express my sincere thanks for spending your valuable time with us and our audience today. I wish you amazing career as well as a future ahead in whatever you are dreaming. And I'm sure you will be impacting many more innovators and their lives. And it's like a percolation of the impact, right? When you are supporting an innovator or an entrepreneur, she ends up supporting more others, right? So it's
The
like the
butterfly effect.
exactly. So
Yes.
I hope that you're able to achieve all your dreams, and I wish you all the very best for your future, Annie.
Likewise. Thank you so much. And if anyone want to reach out, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Hello, everyone. Before you move on to the next video, I have a request to make. If you like this video and this podcast, if you gain some valuable information out of this video, I would request you to click on the subscribe button as well as follow us on our social media pages. The links are given in our description. Also, do sign up to our website, www.shesightmag.com. We have amazing women stories as well as various women initiatives that are getting launched in the coming months. I'll see you there.